Welcome all this afternoon. My name is Absaline Hehakaya and I'll be your host this afternoon for this day's program, Today's European Cinema, a Female Perspective, as part of the festival Forum on European Culture. This year's the festival's theme is We the People. Together with guest speakers and our public, we explore whether European people exist, and if so, who are they? We explore this theme in exhibitions, debates, film, theater, and interviews. We are particularly happy to co-organize this program that you are now watching live from your home, together with the Creative Europe Desk NL. Creative Europe is committed to gender equality in the cultural and creative sectors, and gender equality will be a priority of their future program after 2020. Actions promoting, monitoring, empowering, mentoring, training, and networking will be implemented by them. And together with them, we think that when equality wins, creativity will win as well. I want to welcome everybody present here live at the Bali as well, and a very warm welcome to everyone who watches the live streams. The question with which we set out this program is, how are we going to broaden and deepen the scope of European cinema over the coming years? Ending social injustices is a way forward to do this, and we will discuss some of those relating to gender inequality. There are institutional, intellectual, and artistic dilemmas at all levels when we talk about gender equality and gender representation within European cinema. Firstly, what are the challenges we need to face within the industry? What roles do festivals have to play? Secondly, what does it mean to look at with a female perspective as a film critic? And lastly, how do directors use their artistic freedoms? There are already more and more powerful female film authors with their very own style and unique cinematic representations of reality. All these women add their distinct voices and as a result, European cinema has clearly gained in narrative power, artistic qualities, and impact on all the arts. So to give you a sense of what has been happening over the past recent years, we've put together a collage of fragments of some great, exciting perspectives within European cinema. The European audiovisual industry needs more female filmmakers and scriptwriters and more femme and female perspectives at all levels. This afternoon, we will explore some of these perspectives, not all, but we have invited some really interesting and powerful women to discuss these issues with. And I'm currently sitting here with the brand new director of IFFR Vanja Kaludjercic, and with film producer and co-owner of Witfilm, Iris Lammertsma. First, Vanja, I would like to start with you. You've just taken up the position of artistic director, and everybody will be super curious to know more about your future plans and for the festival and the ways in which IFFR is and will be in the future a stepping stone for female filmmakers. So my first question to you is, what do you consider to be your duties towards the film industry as a gatekeeper of young female talent?
Well, first and foremost, thank you for inviting me to participate here today. It's very exciting to be here. I think Rotterdam as a festival has always been striving to create a space, to create a platform for many different voices, striving for gender balance as such, and many unrepresented voices. I think at the very heart and core of its mission is precisely that. So I think especially in the last couple of years, I do feel that Rotterdam has done quite a tremendous step in achieving that as well, and being there to witness that and having further dialogues with our team, that it's also quite keen on continuing this discussion and continuing this tremendous work is my role as well. So and I can see that already happening when we are discussing the program, when we are planning what we are doing next, and see as well how the team that has been there for already quite some time, of course we have a lot of new people coming, but also the team that has witnessed different stages and different shapes that festivals has gone through, how our modus operandi and thinking about this has been changing over time. I do feel that festival has really in some segments done tremendous work, whereas of course as every institution and organization there are some others where still considerable steps are to be made. But looking at where we are currently and how we are supporting, as I say, not only female filmmakers, but also some other unrepresented voices, I think that that festival is really achieving quite a lot. And that not only through film program, but also to a number of activities that the festival is doing in its professional side, notably IFFR Pro, to cinema, to Rotterdam Lab, and to Hubert Bos Fund, that actually is aimed especially towards territories and countries where often voices, talent, especially not only where gender parity is completely off balance, and the countries that usually have far lower production capacities. And here's where we are really aiming to go strong, to support voices, to give them this initial push and possibilities to network, to find ways how to make their films happen. I mean, even in this trailer, I believe there are some films that have gone through these programs, and so this is exactly what we are aiming for.
Yeah. And one of the things that came out of the earlier festivals at a round table, actually, during the last festival, is the Vrouwen in Beeld initiative. Iris, you are not only co-owner and film producer at Witfilm, but you are currently chairwoman of this very young institute. How did you personally get involved, and what was a decisive moment for you to speak out and speak up?
Yes, it's a very young foundation we have just established. But I've been asked, I was called by Signe Selle-Jensen from the Netherlands Film Fund, and she was in Rotterdam at a round table, and she, together with some other powerful women like Andrea Postuma from Creative Europe, they started this initiative. And they called me and asked if I wanted to be in the board, and I said yes, because I think it's I think it's very, from a personal level, from a personal point of view, I think it's very important to have to give women a stronger voice than they have now, and to make sure that I can add something to this discussion, to this gender equality, that I can really do something. Yeah.
And what are the aims of this initiative?
The aims are, well, we have 4. I've written it down here. We have a couple of aims. It's, of course, stimulating gender equality and the position of women on the market, on the working market. It's also create a strong community of females working in film, and this in a very broad sense. So we are talking about actresses, we're talking about camera people, film producers, but could also be at festivals, at the film fund or other big funds. So we really try to speak out for the whole audiovisual sector, not only actresses, for example, or we also try to stimulate the visibility of women working in
of the non-actresses.
Of the non-actresses, yeah. Of course, the actresses are very visible, but the visibility of women working in the audiovisual sector, also in a broad sense, and awareness. Creating awareness of gender equality, creating awareness of a female perspective, a female gaze. Yeah, those are the 4 topics.
And Vanja, you already also mentioned it. It's a thing that needs to happen at all levels. And you yourself have worked in several positions within the film industry. For example, at MUBI, but now you're a director of a film festival. In what ways have you been working on this in the past, and what opportunities and duties do you see for a festival like IFFR from that perspective?
It's really about continuing the dialogue, and as we said before, and as you mentioned as well, it's about the awareness. It's about bringing these topics that are often getting ignored to the table to first and foremost discuss it with your team. I think it starts from the inside, but it starts also by bringing in new perspectives and possibilities to create new input that ultimately will result in presenting a different output as well. So I think it's about constant work on that, and that never stops. You're never going to get super comfortable, even if we are having the opportunity and being on the stage and discussing very proudly things that we have achieved. There is so much more that we still need to do. Yeah.
But what are, for example, discussions that you are having, and do these differ for bijvoorbeeld the discussions you are having with male or female programmers?
Absolutely. I think the level of discussion has changed over time. I mean, I'm not going to speak about Rotterdam because I just started there, but if I think, 15 years ago, when we were discussing film programs and who were the gatekeepers, I think it also refers to who was your immediate surrounding and how certain decision making is taking place. I think what has happened, it's much more space has opened for diverse discussion to begin with. There's no one top-down voice telling you this is how art should look and shut up or something like that, but really the awareness and the sort of more inclusive sort of group that has been created around art and culture especially, I think has already made quite a few steps forward. Yeah. Not everywhere else in society, but in Europe, for instance, in culture, I do think that we have moved forward.
Of course, being head of cinema at a debating institute, I stress the importance of discussing things and creating awareness. But your initiative also tries to move it beyond that by stimulating research and getting more data on how many women are working where.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, because we don't know exactly. We have some figures, for example, from the Netherlands Film Fund, but there's the NPO fund. We don't know how many films of female directors they fund or not. We don't know. So this is our first aim, to try to collect data and to understand how it works and really know what is happening and know what the position of women in audiovisual industry is. Yeah, it's starting by collecting data, starting to know what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But Vanja, it's a bit unfair of me to pose this question to you because it was from the former director, Berel Beyer. He did not believe in quotas. So, for example, IFFR did not sign the 50-50 2020 pledge, which ITFA, for example, did sign. Are you expecting to take a different approach on that, or?
I think, yes. Well, first and foremost, I really wouldn't want that IFFR not signing this pledge would send a wrong signal to the industry or to the overall film community or cultural sector, because it's not about not supporting the cause. It was because absolutely IFFR is very much in support of it, and IFFR very much stands for it and wants to make further steps and progress in achieving gender parity all over. However, it was about providing certain data that were required by this pledge that IFFR could not have provided. It's about collecting data that, in a way, IFFR cannot provide them further to this pledge. This is absolutely something that can and perhaps should be changed, and this is something that me as a new director could bring back and should and will bring back on the table to discuss. But it was by no means about not giving support, because the support is absolutely there, but also steps that the festival is taking. And that is, for instance, if you look at our team, if you look at our board of directors that are both female, our supervisory board predominantly female, and our programming team is exactly at 50-50 gender parity, and overall team of IFFR, I do believe, is also overwhelmingly female, or if not, or more or less, I think. I really, believe that there are other ways of achieving that, and there are other ways of discussing that, and the fact that specific gender parity pledge was not signed does not mean that IFFR is at any point excluding itself from that. Yeah. But I do acknowledge that providing data is also highly important for us to make initial steps or further steps in awareness and in understanding where are we currently with our industry. Because if you look, for instance, the data that has been collected for wage parity or imparity, that is quite, I would say, distressing to see how unbalanced the salaries are between in the audiovisual industry between men and women.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 And because gender quota can be emancipating, can be empowering, but they can also bring us back to a sort of essentialistic approach to gender, whereas in society we're coming to understand gender more as fluid and as non-binary. How do you take this into account with your super young initiative?
It's a difficult question, because in a way quota can lead to polarization and can lead to identity politics. So it's a very difficult thing. On the other hand, I think if you want to change something, sometimes you have to provoke. Sometimes you have to make a big step. And I think quota can add to a real change. Because waiting for society to change and for perspective to change, it goes very slowly, and sometimes it doesn't work. So I do understand Bero why he didn't sign it, because I think it's a very difficult question. Putting quota, obligating people to... I mean, I don't want to be part of a quota myself. I don't want to be work somewhere because I'm a woman. I want to work somewhere because I'm the best. So in a way I understand it, but I think nowadays it's inevitable. We need quota, otherwise nothing will change.
It's indispensable to get started,
yes.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my final question to you both. What are things that give you hope that this change definitely will come?
I think it's already coming, and it's already here. So I am hopeful. I think again that substantial steps have been made. The discussions that we have today, when we are working, looking at the program, impact that we are doing, and how inclusive the festival has become. For instance, I can only speak, of course, firsthand. It brings tremendous hope to me. I am worried about what this crisis is bringing to us, however. Yeah. Because I think it's society is immediately regressing, of course, with such impact that Corona has on our, and that.
Do you think it will affect choices for safe films, so to say? So it will.
No, I don't think about that, but I think the disruption that is making in the overall chain and in industry, but I mean in the whole world, is going to have surprising effects and very negative ones for quite a substantial amount of time, possibly. But where it's putting women and in how it puts them in a high-risk group because of, I mean, I think the wage disparity, and because women are simply not earning as much as men do. So as long as we don't have economic parity, women will always be at risk. And with this crisis that is currently happening, the regression is already occurring, and we can see that happening. And I think, quite a few steps back have been happening because of that right now. So, of course, I have hope, and of course, we think that as a platform, we can make a significant impact and help there. There are also things that are beyond our reach.
Yeah. So you see the challenge and you
Yes.
see how you can face it,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
not all up to you. And for you, Iris?
I think it is changing already. If I think about my company, directors come to us with an idea. 80% of the directors who came to us last year is female. So in a way, it is changing.
Yeah.
And so I work with a lot of very strong women who don't need a quotum to already start working on a female perspective. So I see it changing
Now
slowly.
the salary has to follow.
The salary is something different. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that is really a big thing, and
Yeah.
that really should
And
change.
this is where
So
we should work most,
Exactly.
because until we get there, women are always going to be at risk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to thank you both for this part of the program and to reflect with us on the industry and how we're going to change institutionalized gender disparity. We are now moving to the second part of the program, because another perspective this afternoon is that of the film critic. Not necessarily a gatekeeper as these two powerful women here at the table are, but a critic is certainly someone who provides us with insights and questions that direct the way in which we experience cinema. Questions like what film is worth your time, or what are we looking at? Critics bring films to an audience or steer the audience away from a film. They are the audience, so to say, before there is even an audience. And so the film critic plays a pivotal part and provides a link between the possible spectator and the work. Which is why we need more diverse criticasters and film thinkers. And so for today, I'm very happy that Basje Boer is here to reflect on female perspective in cinema. She's an author and film critic who writes about film in various forms, whether essay, review, or novel. So I'd like to yield the floor to Basje for her essay. And give her a warm applause. Thank you.
On female perspective in cinema. I love the films of Lars von Trier. I love the films of Paul Verhoeven. I love his dedication to bad women. I love the fact that he is so clearly in awe of them. I love coming-of-age films in which girls are to be obtained by the male protagonist instead of being granted their own agency and interiority. I love horror films that sensationalize and sexualize violence towards women. I love the films of Alfred Hitchcock. I love his strained relationship with strong women. Hell, I even love the fact that he likes punishing his female protagonists for arousing or confusing men. There is a truth to his films, a truth about a patriarchal society that does in fact punish women for being strong, arousing, or confusing. I even love films that don't seem interested in female characters at all. I'm interested in a male perspective on things, and I'm interested in a male perspective on women. But the thing is, we need a female perspective as well. What does it mean to take on a female perspective? What does it mean to the filmmaker who has a story to tell, who is trying to convey ideas, images, and thoughts, who has a vision that is not gendered per se? What does it mean to the spectator who wants to be captivated, who is perhaps looking for innovative storytelling, but who also wants to be able to relate to the people on screen? And what does it mean to the critic, to someone like me, who is looking for patterns and trends and themes, who is trying to place one particular film in a broader context, in the history of storytelling? The thing is, it's hard to talk about female perspective without talking about male perspective. It's hard to talk about contemporary storytelling without talking about the history of storytelling. The thing is, the history of storytelling is defined by man. It's defined by a male perspective. We've been stuck in certain story templates, stereotypes and cliches for a long time. Cinema might be a relatively new art form, but it was founded on a longer history of storytelling. Stories revolving around brave white-skinned men and dangerous dark-skinned men, about obedient fair-haired maidens and tempting dark-haired vamps. Hollywood, which after the invention of cinema quickly established itself as its international capital, has been called the Dream Factory, when in fact it's a cliché factory, supplying story templates for European cinema as well. When are female writers going to start taking risks? A male Dutch writer asked a few years back. When are women going to become dangerous? A female Dutch writer asked more recently. This is what is asked of female storytellers: to be bold and dangerous, to take risks, to think big, to show ambition. But compared to whom? And why is there this need for risk-taking and danger at all? Is it because we've come to think of male artists as being risky and dangerous? Are they? And if so, why should female artists follow in their footsteps? Why would we doubt the type of stories that women want to tell and the way in which they want to tell them? Why not let women investigate their storytelling freely? And by that word, freedom, I mean without the context of gender. I love the films of Joanna Hogg, the British filmmaker who put cult icon Viv Albertine in a glass house in exhibition, displaying her middle-aged body in search of sexual attention, and who recently told a vulnerable autobiographical story of first love and young artistry in The Souvenir. I love Western by German filmmaker Valeska Griesebach, a gentle examination of male vulnerability and a homage to the classic westerns of John Ford. I love Andrea Arnold. I love her female characters who are wild and unruly, who you care for even if you don't understand them. I love her ballsy take on literary classic Wuthering Heights. I love her freewheeling American Honey, a female version of the classic road movie. I love Claire Denis. I love her uncompromising storytelling that always shows the outside rather than the inside, leaving us puzzled, keeping us on our toes. I love the films of Jessica Hausner, the Austrian filmmaker who slips humor of the most insidiously subtle kind into her modern tragedies. I love Kate Shortland's Lore, a World War II movie without heroes, a coming-of-age story without a future, and a love story without hope. I love Maren Ade's Tony Erdmann, a film about masks and facades, and about letting those go. And I love all those multi-talented storytellers that favor the television format. I love Phoebe Waller-Bridge's Fleabag, a smart, funny, and ultimately devastating series about a woman who covers up her self-hatred with snark and cynicism. I love Michaela Cole's bold and ambitious series I May Destroy You, a work of art that doesn't aim to please or emulate, that answers only to itself. Do these stories take on a female perspective? I think so, yes. Does it matter whether they do or not? Yes, it matters, and no, it doesn't. Yes, I do believe that gender or gender identity can be a useful and interesting frame when regarding films and other works of art. In other words, it can be useful for a critic like me. And yes, I do believe it's important that we start telling more stories that take on a female perspective. I think it's important that we start balancing out a long history of stories told by men, stories that focus on men, stories that favor a male perspective. And to do that, we will have to keep score. In other words, we will have to keep the gender identity of the artist in account. And yes, I also believe that we should grant these artists, these new voices, the freedom to tell their stories in their own way. And that includes the freedom to not have to think about their gender identity while they are telling those stories. In the end, what's at stake isn't just a male or female perspective, it's storytelling itself. Thank you.
The following guest I have here at the table is film director Ena Sendijarević, who made several award-winning short films and whose film Take Me Somewhere Nice premiered at IFFR 2019, snatched the prize there, and continued to be lauded at the international film festivals, which resulted in the Best Film Award at Sarajevo Film Festival. First off, I would like you to respond a little bit to Basje's essay, because I think several parts might have resonated with how you view this topic.
Definitely, yeah. First of all, thank you for having me here this evening. Yes, I think one of the questions that Basje asked in her essay is, what is this female perspective? Because she's naming several films made by men with very interesting female characters, and those are also favorite films of mine. And then she names females making also films with very interesting female characters. So I guess you don't have to be a woman to make an interesting film with a main female character. So that's not what a female perspective is about. I guess a female perspective is about just, you know, being born with a vagina and making a film. And then you have a female perspective. So there's no checklist of what you then have to do, you know, besides that. All kinds of thoughts about the world, all kinds of characters, either female or male or anything in between can be part of your film, or even without human beings, you know, you can make a film and it will have a female perspective because you're a woman making it. So this is something that resonated with me, and I also think like being in favor of having more gender equality, which I am, of course. This has to do with having more, having this wonderful job of being a director, the privilege of doing this thing. Let women have access to it as well, and not only men. And this is the thing that this gender equality thing is about, I think. So so what I liked a lot, one of the sentences that she said was, why not let women investigate their storytelling freely without the context of gender? I like that.
We will discuss more about what that particular sentence means to you and to your work. And then we have to talk about your film somewhat, which by courtesy of the distributor Gusto Entertainment and Creative Desk, Creative Europe Desk NL, you can still watch for 24 hours. So take that opportunity to do so after this program.
For free.
For free, with Dutch and English subtitles. But for now we will look at the trailer of the film.
Dobro jutro, Holandija.
Tata mi je u bolnici u Podvaleži. Jel znaš gdje se to nalazi?
Jel ti bilo dosadno gore, jel te zanimalo kako mi živimo? Pa odlično živimo, zapiši to sebi. Malo.
Ista pravila, isti muškarci. Na kraju ih nije briga za žene, jedino im je stalo šta drugi muškarci misle o njima.
Ukrao si mi želju.
Great soundtrack, by the way, by Ella van der Woude. Another female perspective present in this way. You have emphasized again and again with Take Me Somewhere Nice that it's a personal film. It's not an autobiographical film. Yet the film gets interpreted as being about Alma, the main character. And most of the questions come to you. Ena, she's a female, you're a female. She's Bosnian, you have Bosnian roots. What about it? How did you came up with the character of Alma, and how did your relation to this character evolve over time, from your first ideas about this film to now where you're most of the times identified with the character?
That's a very good question, because indeed I do get a lot of questions about this kind of autobiographical element, or are you this character or not? And actually, I did not want to make a film about a young Bosnian woman, but I wanted to make a film about East and West European tensions. I wanted to make a film about identity, about migration, maybe also a film about young people who are growing up at this moment, who are dealing with loneliness in a way. This new generation that's very much connected to everyone and everything on the internet, and a generation that can fly anywhere with EasyJet and very cheaply, but also who's a bit lost between all these different places, be it online, offline, or be it in a home country or another country where your roots are, maybe. So I wanted to dive into these questions, and then I thought, okay, why not use the worlds that I've also grow up in as some kind of a background for this story. So this is how I came up with these three characters. For me, of course, Alma is maybe a bit more important than the other guys. It's a story about a girl and two boys who go on a road trip, ultimately, I guess. But she's a Western European girl, and they are Eastern European boys. And they're not only Eastern European, but they come from, they live in Bosnia, which is a country that is a European country, but that it's outside the EU. So you see all kinds of tensions between her and the boys. There are actually tensions that you could also place on Europe and the European Union, and how the Western countries in the European Union deal with the Eastern countries, how people want to migrate to Fourth Europe, so to say. But also how some people in Western Europe, in the Netherlands, we are dealing with, I think, 1 million people who are on antidepressants. So this is not only a happy bubble here, we are also very depressed, all of us. Why is that, And we are also looking for meaning. So this is all these kind of Western European things I wanted to put in this character, who is Alma. So this is how she came about. And using Bosnia as one of the countries in the film, using Netherlands as well, was just, maybe a personal decision, but not an autobiographical one.
And do you still like her after she's been dubbed your counterpart? Did you ever like her?
Yes, I love her. Yeah, I do. But likability is maybe because she's not likable. This is why I love her. I think all of the characters are... What I like about cinema is that you can be with characters that don't have a mask on. So, of course, now we are wearing our masks. I can't be my crazy self at this moment, just a little bit.
It's live streamed, yeah.
Okay, that's why.
You
can't
if you
edit.
to.
Shit, okay. But yes, but in cinema we have the chance to have this intimacy with people without masks, and they can be rude, they can be nasty, you know, they can show their darker sides, and we can enjoy it. And they don't have to, you know, we don't have to make a moral tale about it. We don't have to say like, yes, but if you show your dark side, then this will happen to you. No, we can just show people in all the colors that they have. And this is what I also like about all the characters in the film.
Did you, because all the characters represent several aspects or tensions within yourself, did you caught yourself choosing by gender what you wanted to express with a character, or did you actively try to turn around cliches, for example?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I think the first cliche that we turn around is maybe the cliche of the road movie, or maybe even the coming of age. You know, the coming of age being about this young person who goes into the world and then they find out about things and come out sadder but wiser, you know? And I just feel like, do we get wiser as we grow older? Most of us get sadder, but I mean, is this a linear line? I mean, for some of us maybe it is, but a lot of us, and I see that around me as well, grow older, maybe more bitter, or more like confused, maybe even, or so it's not a linear line, and maybe wiser in the end, maybe not. It's not set that this is how it goes. This is also exciting about life, so there's no recipe, and, you know, and this is what I like to see in cinema as well. I think that's more honest reflection of life than, some kind of, you know, assuring, surely, story about, this happens and that's the result. Sorry, I lost the question.
The question was about if you used gendered traits for the characters. So let's see how this plays out when we gave this sort of behavior to one of the boys, for example, or...
Yeah. In a certain way, yes and no, I would say, because one of the things that I was really interested in were these male-female tensions. And I mean, even especially when you go to the Balkans, things get worse in a certain way.
What do you mean?
When we talk about men, women, I think there's still much more of this macho. The macho type of men is much more present in the Balkans than in the Netherlands, for example. So these are also like a Western way. I mean, we have this metro men, or like these. Men that look at themselves as feminists. We have that much more in Western Europe, Netherlands being one of the countries, but Scandinavia, of course, as well. I think Western Europe is worldwide, I guess. Maybe what's happening now in America is even pushing it a bit further, but then they don't really have a feminist president. But so I think what's happening is that, yes, feminism is making steps in the last few years, and what you see in the Balkans is a bit different.
And so, how did you how did you put that into a character or characters?
So that's when some of these stereotypes I used to evoke certain thoughts about these male-female tensions. So, for example, you have this singer, folk singer, a woman who is very bitter about men, and then she says, "Oh, men are all the same. They only think about themselves, or they only think about what other men think of them." Yes, so I did use, but I don't know if I really inverted. I could have had a man saying these things, but I didn't do that kind of inverting. I think I tried to look a bit more closely to these. To men and women who are struggling with this kind of corset of being a man or a woman. And then you have these three very young characters who are still free and who are being pushed, into, they are going to be part of society. They are like, yes, in this puberty phase, teenage years. So you still have, you the freedom of childhood, but you have to make this step into society. And I think these are terrifying years. And I just wanted to have these three characters who would be very open in a way, taking things as they are, as they happen to them, but seeing around them a world where a very gendered world where people are maybe struggling.
I really love the scene where the singer picks up Alma when she's walking across the road in a teeny tiny dress. And Alma is unaware of what she's projecting when she walks down the road, and the woman takes her along, feeds her, clothes her, which is really interesting because Alma as a character is not yet entirely familiar with what she is to the world.
Yeah, yes, I agree. I mean, this is when we get boobs and when our bodies certainly start to become sexually attractive, and we start to find out what can we do with this. Is there certain power in here as well? So this is also something that I wanted to think about, especially now with this Instagram age, where you say her dress is teeny tiny. Well, for Instagram measures, it's like a burqa, So it's like it's not teeny tiny at all. So I mean, young girls are on Instagram, practically naked, but then again, some of them have millions of followers and making a lot of money with it. So what would you rather have? Somebody else making that money for you and you being exploited, or exploiting what you have been given? So for me, this was, I mean, I can imagine this for in every age for women. It's, I mean, what they say, like these famous feminists always say, like, the body of the woman is the world's battlefield, and it's sad, it's a cliche already, but it's something that is, I almost think, when will we get rid of this? Never, maybe. Maybe we should just embrace it and find our ways to use it to our own, benefit. So Alma in the film, she has gotten a body, and it's a voluptuous body, and what to do with it? Can she have fun with it? Yes. Sex is fun. Can it become dangerous as well? Yes. Is she aware of it? Maybe not always. So there is some kind of recklessness in her. But maybe sometimes recklessness is always fun. Is also fun, and it doesn't always end with you being raped. So having a female body is dangerous. That's true.
Yeah, and there's also quite some sex in the film. Why did you want to make this an important part of Take Me Somewhere Nice?
Yeah. Because sex is nice. So take me there. No. For me, so this was one of the things that was very important for me. I don't see coming of age. Maybe I don't see it like we were talking about danger now as well. Yes, I think exploring sexuality, there is a lot of danger there as well. Just by showing, I mean, I've seen, exploration of female sexuality in the teenage years. I've seen it in cinema a lot of times depicted in a very fragile way,
What do you mean with fragile? Do you mean, is that the Twilight way, or?
I haven't seen Twilight. Sorry.
Okay, stop this program.
I'm out.
No, but
well,
in a romanticized way,
yes,
where
kind of.
a sort of purity is at stake, maybe.
I think that's a good way to describe it. Yeah, when I mean, as if young women are not reckless with their own sexuality. They are. When you explore a body, you can take risks and do crazy things, and you can be fine even after you learn things, on the way. So this kind of, I thought it would be more truthful to show that kind of exploration of the self as well. Second thing, there are actually 3 reasons. The second reason why I found it very important to show this sexuality is because I think this is where our power lies as well. So, when we talk about, I think for a lot of people it was provocative as well, and some people were not happy to see all this sexuality in the film. And why are we so uncomfortable with women being sexual?
Maybe you have to specify in what ways?
Well, I remember we had a screening in Berlin, and then maybe it's also how the film was advertised. Maybe you would have, some people did expect, like, oh, it's just going to be a fragile girl, and she will learn more in the end, and the bad things she will learn not to do anymore. But no, we had a screening in Berlin, for example, and a woman came with her daughter, her 16-year-old daughter, and the film is for 16 and older, by the way. So I don't know if she was 16. She was very young, the daughter. Maybe she was younger. And they were sitting in the front, and I already spotted them, and I already thought, like, yeah, because the woman was very conservative looking, and I thought, like, oh, I don't think they will. She will introduce her daughter to the film that she thinks she's introducing her to. So at the end of the film, she was really pale, and she was like, I was giving the Q&A, and she was like really angry looking at me, and the daughter was like smiling a bit, and. Then she asked, like, oh, yeah, so, I mean, at a certain point, she asked this question, why did there have to be so much sexuality in the film? And I think she was Bosnian as well. And, yeah, and
what did you say to her? And did your answer appease her in a way?
No, I try to explain that I think that sexuality is part of our empowering, talking about our sexuality and also the dangers of it, but also the delight of it is is something that is empowering to women, and not only dangerous delight, but also sadness, and like why should it be taboo? But then again, I remember me growing up, sexuality was very much taboo in our household as well. So when there would be, when you would see a film and there would be too much kissing, it would be like we would be sitting on the couch, like, I don't have Dutch parents, so we would just turn off the television, or it would be that kind of, maybe the situation that was in the Netherlands maybe 50 years ago or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
we are going to invite Eva to the table very quickly. But I would like to talk about in what way do you think your work is political? And you have mentioned Bertolt Brecht in relation to this, and I would love you to explain it some more.
Yes, so what I wanted to do is to show these characters as, I mean, I wanted to show these kind of corsets that society puts on us, be it male, female, or being a migrant, even that kind of corset. And I wanted to show in the film, yes, in a way, how they are constructed. So I grew up in, when I was in the film academy, one of the biggest heroes were always the Dardenne brothers, who have this very social realist kind of cinema. This was 10 years ago. Situations would always seem inevitable. So when you have Rosetta, for example, we have reality, social realistic reality, and we are following this character, and we see that she is just,
Who is she? For people who haven't seen the
I think Rosetta won the Palme d'Or.
No, but who is she as a character?
She's a lower class girl who works in where does she work in this this factory, and she get fired? I also forgot. Do you know? You remember? No. Anyways, it's like she does. Somebody's nodding. Okay, she gets fired, but it's like
lower class girl gets fired,
and her life is a downward spiral.
And that's what we see in the film.
And that's what we see in the film. And I wouldn't say the film hasn't got qualities. Of course it has, but to me it's also this feeling of inevitability. Like this is how, because the style is very social realist. So you see almost like a documentary. You follow this girl, and this is just reality basically. So that, it was fiction. But it seemed like almost reality. And this is something that I wanted to go against. So by showing the film world that I'm portraying as a construction, I wanted to show that, we see these characters, maybe migrants, maybe they are from a lower socioeconomical layer, but the world is changeable as well. So the world that I'm portraying can also be something different. And you could feel this because you feel that the world that I'm portraying is very stylized. It's a construction, basically. And we can just change our societies as well if we, choose for new constructions.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And that's also why the film format, you don't see it in this picture, but is 4:3, right? You saw it in the trailer.
Yeah, one of the reasons why it's 4:3 is because I wanted to make a wink to Instagram, basically. So because the Instagram ratio is 1:1, and I thought, it would be interesting to put her in this Instagram box, more or less. And 4:3 is a very known art house ratio. So it's in that sense it's nothing novel.
Ida is also about Instagram, no?
Sorry?
Ida by Pawlikowski is also about Instagram.
It's also about Instagram, yes, very innovative film. yeah, black and white Instagram. Yeah.
No, we've talked about theatricality. We're now talking about Instagram. I think we should not wait any longer to invite Eva also to the stage. Eva Line de Boer is a theater director. And please take a seat. With this, we also move to the final part of our program, where we will discuss aesthetic and artistic freedom for you two directors. Because in my opinion, all art is open to all other art. Where would cinema be without its storytellers or actors or photographers or theatrics? But this is not a one-way route. Many artists and thinkers are influenced by European cinema, such as theater directors. Maybe for people who don't know her, Eva Line de Boer is an award-winning theater director. Her oeuvre is a highly stylized yet heartfelt investigation into the ways in which people find themselves looked at, and the ways in which this visibility informs their behavior. Her work also has a strong visual aesthetic, which is inspired by YouTube vloggers and by European directors, which we will be talking about. And she's very particular about the aesthetics of her work, and also she's one of the few theater directors, in my opinion, who succeeds in making really cinematic trailers for her theater works. And we will watch one of those trailers for the show Dit gebeurt allemaal tegelijk, which roughly translates as this is all happening at the same time. Yeah. So we will look at that. Take a look. This is how it looks on the stage, basically. I've chosen this particular show because I think it's really interesting in its relation to early forms of cinema. And as a moving pictures, it reminds me very much of my bridge photography, where you see all the stages of a horse in gallop all at once. Let's see, and this is also how it looks like on a theater. So people are pushed on the stage by carts, basically. What I find interesting about this work is that you choose certain elements that me as a film theoretician, I recognize from visual editing. So, for example, the way in which you light up one character and the sequence of what is happening at the stage takes a certain amount of time and is always in relation to other sequences that are also on the stage. I thought it was a very rudimentary form of cinema. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about how this visuality of life informs your theater work. For example, for Dit gebeurt allemaal tegelijk.
Yes, of course. Thanks for having me. I don't talk much on film programs, so that's cool. I think I really thought about this project as I think the most important question when we started with this performance, because the theme was everything like everything. So how it's a really big theme, in which I really wanted to combine different situations that can have low or higher impact, but because they all have the same time, they have the same importance. So some scenes were about grief, but some scenes were about two girls fighting about a kiss. So the most important thing was, how can you create like a mosaic, what you can do in film, of course, that you can zoom in and zoom out the whole time in one space, in one duration of time, because theater is, of course, happening live there from A to Z. And I think, for me, the parade, what it is, was a really nice solution to edit. And I think not only in this show, but in all my work, I think a lot about making theater as editing. So also the way you have the movements and the physical things, and that can be another layer than, for example, what you hear or what they say. So I think, for me, film is it's really interesting how you can make that in the same room. So for like 1.5 hours, how you can use that kind of zooming, zoom in, zoom out, all the things like that, yes.
Yeah, and one of the other shows, this is more recent work that you have done, Rust Zacht Billy, or Rest in Peace Billy, where you actually made a film that is part of the theater show. Maybe you can talk us through that decision also.
Yes, Rust Zacht Billy is about how we say goodbye to people, about grief, and especially about how we say goodbye in words and also in images. So this project is really about the combination of fiction and documentary. So we used only real speeches from funerals, and also a lot of texts that we found online. So every text was already there, and we could use it for a second time. But we also really wanted to make like the impact of.
Just a second. What kind of text do we have to think about? Like for.
Yeah, like speeches that people give for their dead parent or their dead cat, but also like tweets that are about people that die, or Facebook text. So a lot of found footage.
Yeah.
Yes.
I also like you also had speeches that people posted underneath, for example, candlelit videos with, for example, a song that makes them cry, and then they post a sort of in memoriam.
Yeah. You have like a lot
ones.
of like the big funeral hits. If you, for example, van Marco Borsato, Afscheid nemen bestaat niet, or something. If you go to the YouTube page of that video, then you have a lot of people that make like a small in memoriam for someone that they lost, and they find each other there. So that's really cool. But how? Like the question in this project was, how can we make like the impact of someone dying even bigger? And then we could do with fiction and also with these texts, because in a way they also became fiction. That's funny, because if you let actors play them, it becomes fiction. So we really wanted to work with someone, I do that a lot, that I work with people that are non-actors and that are more related to that theme. So we found someone who was, how do you say it, who is going to die. Yeah. He still lives, but he knows he will die.
He's terminally ill.
Yeah, he is. And we asked him if we could make a ritual for him, like a ritual that we made especially for him and that would never exist in real life, because of course, when you say goodbye to someone, especially in these times, but always you have like restrictions in time, in space, in everything, and we would make like a dream ritual with him. And therefore we used film, because that was the way that we could break out of this situation, but also because I think if we would have worked with him live, of course it had some implications. We would never know if he would be there at the opening night. But also I think it's really interesting because I think the distance that film gives to him as a person in this fictional play is also really important. So I think therefore we choose film.
Yeah, one of the things that you were able to do is use the helicopter, Chinook helicopter, to pick him up and to send him off on the tunes of Linkin Park, which he was not allowed to play at his funeral because his wife doesn't like Linkin Park.
No.
So now we have a bit of kind of a hint of an idea of what you're doing on the theater, but you also literally worked on the set of, for example, Roy Anderson, a filmmaker. You might know of for example, A Pigeon Sat on a Branch Reflecting on Existence. That is the film that you were working with him on in this particular photo. See if you can spot Eva Line there. And I was wondering, why did you make this move?
To do an
work,
internship. Yeah, because when you're at the theater academy, you can do like internship with a director, and I was not so much interested in theater directors. So I thought, what if I could do everything? And then I thought I should write him. So like 90 letters or emails later, it worked out, and I could be there. And when I left, I only knew that I could be there for 1 week, but I stayed 3 weeks, so it was everything was really unsure. And I worked on the set funny enough, mostly on set design, because that is what he does. I mean, I don't know, should I tell more about his films, or people know him, you think?
Anna knows his films, but it's really interesting to look at his the theatricality of his work as well. And this is also why I've invited you here, not only because you have a unique take on what cinema is, but also because of this clash between people we love, like Roy Andersson, people who are from a different generation, from a different gender, and do different sorts of things than you do, for example, in your work. So in what way did it influence your work, and where do you take off, so to say?
That's interesting. I think the main reason that I really like him is because that he created the structure for himself to make film in that's absolutely unique. So he works like for 6 years on one film, and he did a lot of commercials, so he could build his own studio, so he could exactly work on his terms. And I think that is something that I think is really interesting, and also something that I really want to embrace. And maybe it's also more easy for him because he's a man. That could be, but I think we can. And for me, I mean, his aesthetics and his way of portraying people, like the humor, everything, I still love. But the funny thing was, when I was there, I was of course also making my own theater works. I was graduating, and when I was there, I mean, you can see it here. Everybody's so white. They are even more whiter in the movies than they are in real life. And I was thinking, okay, his take on the world, or also his perspective, is totally, completely different than mine. And that is maybe something that then when I came back, I thought, okay, I should. And maybe also because I think he really makes only from his own perspective on the world. And I think as a theater maker or a filmmaker, you can also make with different perspectives. For example, for me, my actors and also the diversity in the cast are really important, that they also bring in perspectives. So I don't want to make something that's only my view on the world. So I think that's the most important lesson I learned there.
And how is that for you? Because you're also a fan of Roy Andersson. What do you like about his work, or what do you take from his work, and what do you think, well, that's not for me?
Well, I was first introduced to his work also in film school, and before that I was used to going to commercial cinema. So I remember 8 Mile or films like White Chicks, which I actually found out it's actually a very good film afterwards as well. But so this is what my introduction was to to films, and then when I saw his films, he was one of the filmmakers, contemporary filmmakers, who I would say is very much an author. So he's he's maybe one of the few people that we have in Europe who has had a whole career where he could make and evolve in making his own cinematic universe. And this is something that really inspired me a lot, because why I think it's very important, because it's a way of filmmaking that is not trying to please the market. And this is a lot of pressure. Maybe not everybody is aware of this, but films are made with very big budgets. So we're talking about millions of euros. And at a certain point, when and especially he has achieved a lot in his career, then the pressure comes as well. Like, okay, when you have that much money, or when you can get to that much money, let's say it like this, then a lot of rules and a lot of people get involved who want a lot of things, and
who want a piece of you.
not only a piece of you, but they want to make a product, which film is an industry, of course, because all that money has to come from someplace, and also money has to be earned. So a very successful art house film, it's very hard. It's not that easy to do, because on the one hand you have to there's a market who must want your film, people who pay tickets to see it. And on the other hand, an art house film would be about art, and art is not about pleasing a market. Art is about observing the world and seeing watching and seeing what does this world, what is it about? What are the problems? What are the joys? How do I move through this world? And those kind of questions. So this is something that he did very successfully, and he had his own production company. You know, he's doing things on his own terms, and this is very inspirational. On the other hand, there was always these stories about him of, you know, he's making his first film, Swedish love story, and then a second film, and then not making films for 10 years or something, or even longer.
It did come at a cost. But what is interesting is that you look at Roy Andersson as film author, as someone who you take inspiration from as being an artist. Yes. In an industry where a lot of perspectives are trying to get a grip on your work, whereas you explicitly say, for me, it was a point of departure. No, I want to include more perspectives of the people who I'm working with.
Yeah, that's interesting, because it's not, I think I like it both. I like the fact that that's also what I tried to say, because he only made 6 films or something in his whole career. That I think is quite strange, isn't it? Or it's not that much people that can still be on that level and working
with so low productivity.
Yeah, and that's because and I think that's the good. I like the fact that he's so radical in his way of working, and also in his aesthetics and in everything. But that's something personal. I would like to use my platform not only for my own voice. Yeah. And that's, I think, it's a difference between him and me, and it's not something about good or bad.
But maybe it's also a difference between theater and film.
Maybe.
I think, because and this is something that I miss as well. And maybe you could make this as a filmmaker as well. But I mean. In theater, you spend so much time with your actors that it can more easily maybe become even a Gesamtkunstwerk, yes. Because all of you are there together making it, and the film world tends to be more hierarchical, so it tends to be
also
more
because
like,
you have to deliver within a certain amount of time on set.
Yes, because being on set is very expensive. Yeah. So you have to, you know, or you can make plans to do it differently. So everything is possible. I'm not saying, but the way we do it normally is, yes, you have repetitions, but you have very limited time on sets, and you finance the film before actors are on board, for example.
Another way to do this, which is a second basis for bringing you to the table together, also is that you're both highly influenced by the work of Ulrich Seidel, who has found another way of doing it, working with lay people, working with documentary crews, and the link is maybe most apparent in between Import, your short film that went to Cannes, and Import-Export by Seidel. What is it that attracts you in his work? And also, again, what do you take from it, and where do you say, no, I don't want to go there?
Yes. So what I found very liberating when I was introduced to his work was that he makes use of a lot of humor. You know, he talks about lower class people, working class people, lower class, did I say that? Working class people. And instead of taking this victimizing perspective, he portrays the world as something a bit absurd, and he's not afraid to show dark side of humanity as it is.
But where are you not going that Ulrich Seidel is going?
I think he's going to darker places than I am. You know, almost every one of his films has ending scenes that are very controversial, and I don't think I'm going that far. Which I don't think he's going too far, but I think it's beautiful what he does. But I just don't. For me, I go a different direction, I think.
And what is it for you, Eva, that attracts you to his work and his style?
I think mostly the combination between fiction and documentary, and also that he really work with people that are, for example, for Paradis Libre, that's my favorite one. It's he works with what's the name? Like
Beach
African.
Boys.
What's the name?
The Beach Boys.
Yeah, the Beach Boys. So that are African boys that go out with way older German or Austrian in his
white
case,
women. Yeah.
White women, and they get money, and sometimes they have sex, but it could also be just for fun or for hanging out. And he really worked with them. So he worked with the real boys, and I really enjoy that part of his work. And I also enjoy, but I don't know if it's true, but I feel that he created some space for improvisation. So you have some scenes in his films, and they are really, styled. So every shot is really precise, the aesthetics. But still, I feel that that's also that dark side, or something that is almost dangerous that could happen. So there's like space to create something that I think he didn't thought before of. And I think that's also because he's also a documentary maker. So I could imagine that what you said before, that maybe in documentary films, that there's more space to create together with your characters. Of course, because it's also about your characters, but I think something.
And what don't you want to? Where don't you want to go? Because if you take the example for the Beach Boys, I've never seen in your work.
No, I think it's the same, but I would like to be more radical. So I think
it's something you strive for.
I think what you say, it's true. I feel also that he's going much further, and I would like to go a bit further in my work. I think so, but I think his way of seeing the world is more dark. I think I'm a bit more hopeful. So, and I think it's the same as with Roy Andersson, that I have questions about how he worked, for example, with Dead Boys. I don't think they have a really big voice in how they were portrayed.
Yeah. Considering the time constraints, we have to sort of begin to wrap up the program. In this last part, we've discussed two directors that you both love, but and take inspiration from. But I do want to know, who are your female role models that you look up to and you think, that's where I want to go in the upcoming years?
Oh, I think there are many. And this is also a reason why I think it's so important what we're doing here is, shining a light on gender equality in film, which also has to do with not only new, female filmmakers, but I think it's also about rewriting history, because, in history there's always been a lot of female filmmakers, but somehow, we tend to forget them. And, even Agnes Varda, being the first one who made the Nouvelle Vague film, is not credited and now she slowly starts to become credited for being the first. But for me, there's also this saying that I think it's a saying in art world loves young men and old women. So I guess maybe women have
Your
to
time
wait.
is coming.
I have to get really old, and then it will happen. No, but the time is changing because of all the gatekeepers that are becoming women. But no, so I mean, Agnes Varda, of course, is a very much, big inspiration. But Chantal Akerman is, I think, one of the most exciting female directors, and I look up to her. And I think she's better than Ulrich Seidel or Roy Andersson. But but she's amazing. Yeah, I love her.
And for you?
For me, when you ask it, I thought immediately Marina Abramovic. She's a performance artist, and I think because she's so radical, but also when you think about performance, you think about her. And I don't know if there are a lot of like disciplines where you think directly about a woman. So there, if you can create that, then you're a boss.
We just have to make our own disciplines.
Yeah, but it is. But I think we have.
That's the solution.
I think we have.
We are going to create new disciplines at the bar. But for now, I want to thank you all for watching the live stream. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for all the people present here, all the brilliant speakers of today. Please go and watch Ena's film. You can watch it through our website with the right subtitles of your choosing. And Eva Line de Boer's new theater show, Ik Voel Amor, for Bellevue Lunchtheater is on show from this week until the 15th of October. Thanks again to Creative Europe Desk NL for supporting us with this program. And please have a look at the other programs also of the Forum on European Culture and rewatch all the culture, discussion and debates on offer there at our YouTube channel. Thanks again and have a lovely weekend.
Thank you.
Zijn we niet meer live?